Hi, I'm Rick Anthony, and welcome to the Someone You Should Know podcast, the podcast that focuses on musicians, authors, and interesting people. We like to say we're making a difference one artist at a time. So sit back, have a cold one, and get ready to meet someone you should know. Today, I have the pleasure of welcoming a true musical artisan whose work transcends the genres and touches the soul. He was born and raised in Philadelphia. He is an award-winning singer-songwriter with a career spanning over 2 decades and 20 diverse albums. Wow, very prolific. His latest album is called Turn Up the Divine, and you're going to hear some music from it. We're going to play a couple songs from Turn Up the Divine. And my guest is Eddy Mann. Eddy, hi, welcome aboard.
Hey, it's great to be here. Glad to share some time with you.
Awesome. Growing up in Philadelphia, you were raised by a bebop pianist father and a creatively inclined mother, so you had a really cultural background. How did that shape your interest in music?
I think one of the greatest things my parents did was that we had a lot of diversity within the house. Orally listening to music, and as far as culturally, things from the past and were passed down, and all that became part of who I am, like part of my fabric. So my father's musical portion was always on the jazz side. That was his cup of tea, so to speak. And because of that, he was a good musician. He was a schooled musician. In fact, I know there's this story he used to tell that when he went to take piano lessons, the first year of his lessons, the piano teacher would not let him touch the piano. They just did theory, and he wrote out chord inversions, and he learned harmony and theory before he actually played.
Wow.
And in the way it's turned out for me is there's so many nuggets, beautiful nuggets, and little axioms that he taught me that, of course, as a teenager, with my head in the rock music, I didn't appreciate it. I didn't appreciate it till I was much older and found myself doing things that were, based upon his thoughts, things that he taught me. In fact, last summer, I have a specific date that I did at the end of last summer, and I forget what song we were doing, but I kind of segued into All You Need Is Love, the John Lennon Beatles song. Mm-hmm. And toward the very end of that, I started just singing myself. The band kind of backed off, laid out, and I was just singing, playing guitar, and I started playing what would be these chromatic chords, and it finished beautifully, just off the cuff. And the first thing I did was thank my dad, because I would have not been there, would not have done that if not for his teaching.
Wonderful.
Very good. But it's every day.
What bands you started on a little bit of rock and roll? What bands influenced you early too?
Oh, I went through the English, the big three English guitar players: Page, Clapton. I should put Clapton first. No, I'm wrong. I should put Beck first. Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page.
Awesome.
I love Jimmy Page's writing more than his guitar playing. I loved Zeppelin, first generation rocker.
Me too.
I always enjoyed Clapton's the way that he would phrase his interpretation of blues songs. And Jeff Beck just fascinated me because I wanted to know what he was listening to. Wow. I could listen to his music. I could learn it. I could practice it. I could learn it. But from where I sat, I wanted to know what he was listening, because he was thinking that up. He was playing stuff that was truly unique, and I just didn't want to be, a next generation of Jeff Beck. I just kind of wanted to, but I wanted that mindset that heard those things outside the box.
Wonderful. Now, you graduated, you went to business school, but you chose full-time musician for your adult life. What was the pivotal moment that drew you that way?
I wish I used to know the year. It was a summer semester. I was going to school all year round and playing a lot of music. And I decided to take a summer off to travel, get on the road as a traveling musician, and get it out of my system. A lifetime later, I'm still flushing it out, I guess. I did go back to school when I got married because I wanted to be able to teach a little bit. For the first couple of years, I wanted my kids to know who I was when I was young, when they were young.
Very good.
And dependent. But yeah, I went out and wrote it, and just it never left. It was just this is what I need to do. This is the only thing in life I had a passion for at that time.
Now, earlier, I mean, when you started this, when you actually started making your journey as a traveling musician, what kind of music were you playing? Were you playing rock and roll or what?
Yeah, I was always, the funny thing is I was always writing. Even in high school, I was writing music. I didn't appreciate that that's what was driving me. Performing, I mean, I was a deathly shy kid, but when I had a guitar around my neck, I was up on stage and the girls were looking at me. So, I mean, it changed everything, and I felt like I had a voice and I had confidence. Good. So it was natural at that age to be looking at all these outside things that were driving me to play. It wasn't until I got to the end of high school that I realized that, boy, I was not getting gigs when I would audition for bands. High school, your band breaks up, people go to college, and I wasn't able to work and make a living. And first 3 or 4 gigs that you go try out for that you don't get, you blame it on the band. Well, what do they know? They don't know a good guitar player. And after a month of this, I realized, no, I'm not good enough. I need to be more well-rounded. So I did spend about 1 year where every picture of me that year, I got a guitar. Even when I'm sleeping, I got a guitar around my neck. And so it wasn't until that time off traveling after the college break that I realized that it was the composition, it was the writing that really got me out of bed every day. That's the part I loved the most. And fortunately, I had become a proficient guitarist at that point. So it all it fit together. The puzzle was starting to take shape.
Very good. At what point did you intertwine your faith into the music?
When I met my wife, I was still playing secular music. I was fortunate. I still do. I count myself fortunate that I've always been able to make a living as a musician. And a lot of it had to do with early on I played music that people wanted to hear. I had spurts where I was writing and doing my own stuff. I would get a weekday night at a venue on South Street in Philly. I'd take my band down, we'd play. But I was conscious of making a living and playing music I needed to play up until a certain point. When we got married, I took kind of leave of absence from the business itself and had a short run as an educator. And when I came back, I had a whole different framework. I had an epiphany one day at a school. I was actually teaching at a Roman Catholic school in Southwest Philly, and they asked me please not to come to Mass with the kids because I wasn't Roman Catholic. And also, I was in music class. I was trying to get the kids to enjoy chapel more by feeling the music, listening to it, let the emotions move. They didn't like that either. So they just asked me politely, "You have a free period. There's no need for you to come."
Jeez.
And I was actually in a teacher's lounge with a little acoustic guitar, and I wrote this song called "Swept Up in Joy." I wrote it in 15 minutes, and I had this epiphany: how come I haven't been doing this my whole life? Because no matter what band I was in, and even going back to high school, all the things I wrote were always very optimistic.
Good.
They were always positive. I always bought into the love part of being a hippie. If I wanted to follow in that footstep, I was late to the party to be a hippie. But still, that mindset, the word that jumped out at me the most was love and compassion for each other. And it served me well because when I put a little trio together, when my kids started to become independent, and I did 2 albums, and they featured songs that were about how to survive and how I was surviving in the world, and how I used my faith for strength and for answers. And a pastor I had never met from a church I had never attended. I don't know how, but one of these albums found its way into his life. He called me up and he asked if I had 15 minutes to spare on an afternoon, and I said sure. The church was not that far from my home, and I drove there, and 3 hours later I was a worship leader. And
I love how things come together. That was divine interventions there.
Well, when people say they had a call, it truly was a call. I had no intention of being a worship leader. And actually, at that point, neither of us could actually define what the job entailed because we were kind of creating the job.
Wonderful.
At the time. And they encouraged me to write. The senior pastor encouraged me to write for the church, in the language of the church, in the language of the pastors. So from the very beginning, I was writing and submitting songs to CCLI, which is the licensing entity for Christian music, and started to have various songs here and there being sung in other churches. It's unbelievable how well it has served me, and how I had to, hindsight, we all look at our lives in hindsight. Right, it's so easy to connect the dots then. And I appreciate the fact that I had to learn to be a good, solid musician. And then as a teacher, I learned how to teach. I had natural ability, but I still had to learn. So on the other side of that, I was asked to do both. I was asked to play music and to teach. I had to become a spiritual leader. And anybody who was in my worship team the first couple of years will tell you how bad I was at that. Whenever I see any of those people to this day, I always apologize for that first year or so. I had spent my whole life with surrounding myself with musicians who were paid. Yeah. And I'm wired. I'm a type A person. Whether I wanted to, whether I started the band or not, I ended up being the leader because I seemed to be the most qualified. So, yeah, you know how that works. You don't go in with that mindset, but people start turning to you, and after a while you figure, okay, I can do what they can't. Yeah. I'm disciplined enough to do that. And so if a musician didn't meet my expectations, I wouldn't dock his pay. I'd get rid of him. Mm-hmm. There's too much trouble to dock his pay. Either you really wanted this gig or not. I'd tell them once, and if they didn't do it, so when I went into the church situation, that was my mindset, that these people not really embracing the idea that these were anything but full-time musicians, and this was a passion they had, and they had a gift, but they were trying to figure out for the first time they weren't playing in their bedroom. They were now stepping out, and so they had all kinds of nerves and anxiety, and here I am, the taskmaster, wanting things to be better than they are. So it took a long time to realize that on any Sunday morning, if they sounded like they were getting paid, then I was doing my job.
Wonderful. Now, you've been at this for over 20 years, 2 decades. Yeah. You've got 20 albums out there. Your most recent one is called Turn Up the Divine. It's a collection of divine stories, prayer moments, and times of worship, all put to song. And the first song we're going to feature is The Humble Cottage by the Sea. Can you give us the backstory on how you came up with that one?
Yeah, it's just, I write on a regular basis. The only time I'm not writing is when I'm finishing a project and I'm in the mixing or mastering stage of a project, and I just need to focus there. So I'm writing all the time. I'm into devotions every day, and every once in a while, even the story behind, the little biblical story behind The Humble Cottage by the Sea is certainly a story I've known my whole life. But on this particular given day, it jumped off the page. And the idea for me was that these are humble fishermen. These are people with humble lives, and they're not living in mansions. They're living in huts and stuff. But God is still there for them. Awesome. That He's still amongst them. That He's still a major part of his life. And I thought that's a message that's universal today for so many people that are struggling in the world, financially, emotionally, all the things that we think we don't measure up, all those places. This song was for those people. All
right, let's play it right now. If you're having a down moment, listen to something to be right there to pick you up. This is from the album called Turn Up the Divine. Here's my guest, Eddy Mann, and Humble Cottage by the Sea right now on the Someone You Should Know podcast.
By the sea, sadness was draped about. The fisherman's wife was clinging to life and hope was all but timed out. In the humble cottage by the sea, they went to him with the matter. She'd fallen ill and now laid still, and their life was fixed to shatter. In the humble cottage by the sea, oh, he took her hand. In the humble cottage by the sea, oh, he raised her up. In the humble cottage by the sea, no sooner did the fever leave. In the humble cottage by the sea, she brought the means to sup. By the sea, the Lord of glory was sought. He entered in and lodged within, and a miracle he did wrought. In the humble cottage by the sea, he took her hand. In the humble cottage by the sea, and he raised her up. No sooner did the fever leave. The humble cottage by the sea, brought the means to sup. In the humble cottage by the sea, where prayer is so besieged, he patiently waits our whims and fates, and his tender heart is reached.
New music from Turn Up the Divine, an album by my guest, Eddy Mann. The song right there is called Humble Cottage by the Sea. We got more great music from Eddy coming your way in just a couple of minutes. But first, I want to say thank you so very much for listening to the Someone You Should Know podcast. I want to thank Buzzsprout, the service that shares us all the streaming platforms, whether you listen on Apple Podcast or Spotify or Amazon or Good Pods or Pod Addict, whatever you might be listening on. You can hear the Someone You Should Know podcast. Just look for it by name, all right? I want to salute a couple of cities here. Amongst the 2,800 cities in 106 countries around the world, I want to thank Lewiston, Maine, Suisun City, California, North Las Vegas, Nevada, and Sao Paulo, Brazil. Thanks for tuning in to the Someone You Should Know podcast, heard wherever quality streaming audio is available. We're speaking with Eddy Mann. And Eddy, let's back up a couple of years to The Consequence. This song reached the top 10 on the Christian Music Weekly chart. Can you share the success of that song and how it impacted your career to actually wind up getting some accolades like that?
Yeah, it was an interesting period. I had written the song, first of all, and let me talk about the song itself. I wrote the song as a reflection of my life and all the people that had done things that got me to where I was. Some of these people had done the simplest things in my life, but they had major impact on me. Their simple act had a major consequence on my future, and that was kind of the idea behind it. And when I was formulating what songs would be on that particular album, that song was just the strongest statement. It was kind of a focal point for the songs that followed. So the album itself became The Consequence, and the album it got pushed back, and I forget why, but it got pushed back on release, and I ended up releasing it. I believe it was November 4th of 2016, Election Day, and so many people read into it as being a political statement.
It was also the day the Cubs won the World Series too. So, so that's what. So maybe it was you that helped them.
There you go. But that's good. I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
But I told people, I said it is. It really is political in that I want you to, I hope that people would listen to it and from a place of apathy, because there's so much voter apathy in our country.
Right.
That became the message of the song for that initial year, and a lot of the promotion that I did was play your part, because all these people in my life played theirs and it shaped me. You have a chance to shape not only the people around you, but the world at large. So that became the kind of the rally call for me on that particular song, and it ended up getting picked up by so many different. I hate that. I'm going to use the word genre, and I hate that because people, whenever somebody asks me, what genre is your music, I always want to say, I have to just pick one.
Exactly. It's a little Americana. It's a little bit of this. It's a little bit of that.
Depending, yeah. And so this song crossed a lot of boundaries, which was really nice, because I think that's the worst thing that can happen to you as a creative, is to get boxed in either by yourself, by your own framing of yourself, or by the world at large that just can't seem to deal with you unless they find a box for you to fit into.
Right.
But yeah, the song's been very good for me. I use it a lot for speaking engagements because it works real well. We're giving a broad message to people, as I said. It reaches a lot of people in a lot of different places.
Very good. Why don't we just call it the Eddy Mann genre? It'll be easier.
There we go.
All right, very good. It's the Heinz 57 of music. There you go. Now let's go across the pond. You had great success, a couple of #1 songs in the UK on the iTunes Christian chart. You had Hope of the World and Hallelujah. How did you wind up getting this international audience to love your song so much?
Thank you, MTS Management. They were a major part but ultimately, I think that particular album was an album called Chapel Songs that I released maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and there were so many worship albums and songs and CCM that genre. Here we go. Of music, that sound the same. It's become formula, like every other station and every other group of music. Same studios, same producers, a lot of times the same writers reproducing what worked the last time. And when I go out to conferences and places and to speak or to play, there's a lot of people from churches that are small. They've got 100 people or less. Some of them have 30 people on Sunday morning, and they feel that they cannot do some of these songs because of the arrangements. And so I wanted to create an album for them. Create an album that was consisted of simple melodic songs with simple textural messages that they could use. And I think Hope of the World and Hallelujah were the two songs that jumped the most. They were the easiest for people to grasp onto, regardless of what church you were in and what rules were in your particular church. That's a whole different conversation for a different day. These songs were they were down the middle. They covered a wide spectrum of believers, and they were easily adaptable to their churches. And I think that helped. I think it helped.
And a big shout out to Michael at MTS too. He's a great guy. Great guy.
Yes, he is.
Michael, we love you. Next song we're going to showcase from Turn Up the Divine is String of Pearls. Can you tell us a little bit about this track?
Yeah, this is an interesting. I was doing a Bible study. I wanted in my quest to know more about history. I've been spending more time in the Old Testament. And, we spend so much time in the New Testament surrounding ourselves and engulfing ourselves in Jesus' teachings, I kind of like the Jeff Beck thing. Well, what was Jeff listening to before? It was that same kind of thing that I thought, I want to go back. I want to get deeper into the Old Testament. And the idea that the Jewish priests often, to get their message across, would string together pieces of scripture, and they called it the string of pearls. And I thought, oh, that's a beautiful way to look. Not only did the title itself was interesting for me, the visual part of it was really interesting to me, and so I immediately started digging into scripture the same way, looking for the short little pieces of scripture that were moving me the most at the time, that were touching me the most, that I thought would touch those that are in my audience at this point of time. And that was the basis for the song, and it grew from there.
Awesome. Very good. We're going to feature that song right now. From the album Turn Up the Divine, here's Eddy Mann, and this is String of Pearls on the Someone You Should Know podcast.
Grappling with an open word, a sentimental sign of peace, setting a tone for what's to come, laying out a loving theme, establishing some common ground, banging a divinely still drum, searching vastly, gleaning diamonds from life's different worlds, building language, chaining passion like a string of pearls, sensing there is healing needed, an olive branch freely tender, place for all the world to know, digging for a deeper meaning, searching for the perfect answer, praying for the guidance to flow, searching vastly, gleaning diamonds from life's different worlds, building language, chaining passion like a string of pearls. Pondering the current landscape, measuring all inclination, desiring a peaceful avenue, considering bygone failures, yearning for a future reckoning. What's the best thing to do? Searching vastly, gleaning diamonds from life's different worlds, building language, chaining passion like a string of pearls, searching vastly, gleaning diamonds from life's different worlds, from life's different worlds, building language, chaining passion like a string of pearls, yeah, like a string of pearls. Yes, it did. Searching vastly, gleaning diamonds from life's different worlds,
That's String of Pearls from my guest, Eddy Mann. Now, looking ahead, Eddie, you've got a lot of things going on here. You've got, let's talk about 2025. What have you got going on for the rest of 2025?
Well, 2025 has been, I just finished wrapping up the recording for a new album. I have finished the mixing of it. I'll say 99% of the mastering is done. It's almost ready to be put on the shelf and look for a release date.
Wonderful.
The story behind it was that 2 years ago I did a deep dive into the book of Revelation, which I had never done. I thought it was a year ago. I came down to my Florida studio in January, and I told my wife, I said, I'm going to hide away for the first month. I want to wrap this thing up. I felt like 70% of the recording was already done. And as soon as I started digging into it, I realized that the writing and the actual recording took place in 2023 of January. It was 2 years in between. Mm-hmm. So there's a message there. I'm not quite sure what it is yet. But so the beginning part of 2025 has been about completing this album called The Unveiling. And over the next week or so, I'm allowing myself just some downtime, not to do anything. Come April, I will start rehearsing for what will be my summer tour. I do like a 12-week tour through the Mid-Atlantic states. And I need to start rehearsing for what that's going to look like. Part of the problem of being around as long as I've been around is the catalog has grown so large that I'm always looking to pick out a few gems that are deeper cuts,
right? Yeah,
on these albums to keep the band on their toes, and also that during the course of any time when you're out playing, people do have requests for things that may not be on that seasoned song list, and may not be the easiest to do at that point in time. So I like to add them, get them included on there. So I'll go into rehearsal for 4 weeks, 6 weeks before I catch up with my band, just to get my chops back, air back in my lungs, and we'll do that in the summer months. I would think that sitting here now, I would think that The Unveiling would probably be a fall release. I could be wrong.
Well, stay in touch with us because we'd like to know that, and
absolutely,
maybe this time next year we go ahead and unveil it.
Mm-hmm. That'd be awesome.
With you doing the touring and such coming up this summer, the best way for us to stay in tune to what's going on with you would be your socials. Can you give us website, social media, what you're on, so we can go ahead and put that down in the show notes?
Sure. My website is eddymann.com, EDDYMANN. Twitter, X, those are Eddy_man. Facebook is eddymann.musician.
All right. Very good. We'll put those down in the show notes so anyone who wants to find those socials can easily find them. The next feature is my all-time favorite. It's called Tales from the Road. These are those infamous road stories where things didn't go quite as planned. You've been at this for over 2 decades now. I'm sure you've had a lot of load-ins and a lot of load-outs. Some of them went absolutely flawless, and some of those were those ones where you sit back with friends and say, I don't believe that actually happened to me, but I survived. What would be Eddy Mann's Tales from the Road?
This is interesting because I'm starting as I'm going through the catalog and the things are fluttering by. I'm sitting here thinking this would be a great kind of weekly thing to put up online. Tales from the Road. There's the one that jumps up that is family friendly, that seems to be appropriate at the moment is I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to early on in my secular career when I was on the road. I actually was in Western Pennsylvania, and I was just beginning my trek as a musician. I was on tour with a singer-songwriter, had a #1 hit. His name is Billy Harner, and he had a hit, Sally Saying Something. She's got my heart a thump, thump, thumping. Real deep lyric. I was on the road with him, and the newest guy in the band always had a room with Billy. And it didn't take me long to figure out why they made you do that. It wasn't like a cool thing. It was because nobody else wanted the room with him. He was really heavily into pills, uppers and downers. I was a really young guy. I got caught up in his lifestyle, and I actually remember waking up one night. we were staying in a hotel that was like across the street diagonal from the venue itself, a rather large venue. And I woke up and there was a TV show on in the room. Room's all dark. There's a TV show and I'm watching the show, and I knew it was a show that was on between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. I needed to be on stage at 9 o'clock. I woke up and I saw this thing, and I had this. I mean, I got there. I don't know what I looked like. I don't know what I sounded like that night. The upside of working with Billy at that young age was I did one little tour with him on the East Coast, and I was done. I saw how the lifestyle was. I knew that it was not for me. I came home and slept for 3 days. I was still living at my parents' house. My mom was all freaked out.
Right.
And but it taught me an early lesson that didn't cost me the rest of my life. I knew that if I wanted to make a living at this, that was not going to be the road. It was very sophomoric behavior.
Right.
So that was the positive side of it, although that particular evening was anything but. I wish we didn't have the cameras back then, the cell phones, but I would have loved to have seen what condition I was in.
Oh, jeez.
And just the fact that how I got from the room to the stage in 15 minutes, I don't know.
Well, wonder what condition your condition was in, yeah.
There you go. There you go. So...
Okay, Eddy, we're going to wrap up the show with another great song from Turn Up the Divine. This one is called Did I Ever? What is the story on Did I Ever?
My wife's always saying, you never write enough songs about me and the kids and the family. And I say, I do all the time. You just need to look within the lyric. And it's amazing what's in there. And this was a love song for me to God. I'm really conscious of the fact that when I get up every day, it's so easy to get into my day without even telling God that I love him.
Wonderful.
And I mean those words. I love you, God.
Wonderful.
You put air in my lungs again. So it basically was a love song for God. But if you listen closely, I think the third verse is really about my wife.
Real good. We're going to hear that in just a second here. Once again, the name of his album is called Turn Up the Divine. Look for it on all the streaming platforms. Also check out his socials. And once again, we thank so much, Eddy, for the job that you do and the great music you put out and for being my guest.
I've enjoyed it. Thanks again for the support and look forward to coming back.
Did I ever let you know that I really need you so? Did I ever bare my soul and admit you make me whole? Did I ever? Well, I can't dream of life without you by my side. No, I can't dream of waking without you. Did I ever say that? Did I ever say that? Did I ever say that I love you? Did I ever let you see what you really mean to me? Did I ever show my plan? The one where we are hand in hand. Did I ever? Well, I can't dream of any place without you there. No, I can't dream of living without you. Did I ever say that? Did I ever say that? Oh, did I ever say that I love you? ever share my dream? The one beneath the full moonbeam. Did I ever? Well, I can't dream of any other hand in mine. No, I can't dream of life without you. Did I ever say that? Did I ever say that? Did I ever say that I love you? Did I ever ask? Or did I ever say? Did I ever? Or did I ever?
Hi, this is Rick Anthony, thanking you again for listening to this episode of Someone You Should Know. Now, if you're an aspiring musician or an established musician that's looking for a little exposure, I invite you to drop us a line at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. That's someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. Also, I invite you to tell a friend about the Someone You Should Know podcast. I thank you for tuning in this time, and I invite you to check us out next time on the Someone You Should Know podcast, because you never know who's going to show up. Until next time, remember, God loves you, and so do I.